All right. I have that it is right at 8 o'clock. So we are going to get started. And then anybody else that hops on, by the time we get to diving into the actual webinar, they can join and hop on. But we'll go ahead and get this thing underway on this Tuesday night here at the start of March. I know a lot of us have been having some unusually warm weather. And I know everybody has, I'm sure, been enjoying that, to be able to get out and maybe play some golf. And it's not normal where you might be where you might be located at. As I have to preface all of my webinars, hopefully the dogs decide to behave. I actually have 3 right now in my house. 2 of my foster dogs got adopted in the last couple of weeks. So I have my 2 dogs and then 1 foster that I still have right now. So fingers crossed, as I always do. They have been very well behaved here in the last couple hours, just chilling. So always like to just say that, so that if it does all of a sudden just go crazy, you will know that that's not a circus in the back of my house. It is just the dogs, as I'm sure a lot of y'all have there at your house. But anyways, we are going to just dive right into this, because one of the first screens is a little bit about my background for those who aren't familiar with me. Talk a little bit about that, and then we're going to talk about social media and the recruiting process, and just go through that, and then gonna call it a night and let you all get back to whatever it was that you were doing. So let me hop on here and share that part of my screen. Hang on 1 second. Let me get that back up. Accidentally, I think, close that down. So let me find my, there we go. Hold on now. I see it. Y'all can't see it. Oh, come on now. There we go. All right, let's try this again. There we go. All righty, here we go. All right, little quick background about me, things that I do these days, what I did as a player back in the day. Well, back in the day, it feels like. As I mentioned, I am a dog mom to Maddie and Wesley. Those are my 2. I'm also a foster dog mom. Love working out and training. That's kind of my hobby that I like to do. It's usually my midday break from working from home, working with all of the lovely girls that I get to work with. I played collegiate golf at Furman University. Had a pretty good junior senior year, thankfully. I had the chance to go on and play professionally. I had a couple of years that I had LPGA Tour status. My first year coming out of college, qualified for LPGA Tour, and then what is now the Epson Tour. It's changed names numerous times. The years that I didn't have LPGA status, but I did that for about 8 years. Had a little bit of success, and not enough to stay out there. I really actually was having a really good year when I started to actually work in this recruiting industry that I did not even know existed. I was very removed from junior golf and college golf, and was really just kind of caught up in my golf game and what I was doing. Had no idea what was really kind of had evolved into this this world, and really didn't think I was going to get into the golf business if I wasn't playing. Really all I'd ever thought about doing was playing professional golf. But started working for one of the recruiting companies that's out there. You all probably have heard from them. Just started kind of understanding about the process, realized, hey, I really wanted to be able to work just with the girls. Worked both with the boys and the girls for the first few years of Brandy Jackson Golf. But over the last 5 or 6 years, I've been able to transition to only focus on the females, and really building on those relationships with the women's college coaches, really across the board, to really be able to enhance those relationships, get to know those women's coaches even better than I already did through my career and what I was doing. So really do that and just really get to know the girls and really kind of help figure out what it is that I can help to not just help them with the process, but help them through such a tough time in their life. Not on the golf course. A lot of what I do has nothing to do with their golf games and what they're doing. It's really about this development piece of communication and just getting more mature and the ownership of that. And a lot of it, which is what we're going to talk about tonight, is as simple as some of the social media stuff. We'll touch a little bit on the kind of sensitive piece of kind of trying to encourage the girls sometimes to be more comfortable with it, but yet also knowing the dark side to it. But I've also, obviously, a lot of you all know about me through the Peggy Kirkville Girls Tour, the PKB, as we all like to call it. I have been with the tour pretty much from the start of my business. Within the first couple of years that I launched Brandy Jackson Golf, partnered up with the PKB. So it's been 10 or 11 years now. Grateful for the opportunity there. For the chance to share this content with you all, which is what we love to do through the partnership with the PKB. Hope to be on site this weekend, weather pending on Saturday, at Bryant Park. Plan to be up there. So if y'all were there, make sure to stop by and say, hey. I'll probably just be kind of hanging out in and around the pro shop or the clubhouse. Go out, check out a couple of my girls that are going to be playing. But again, been with them, and you all as members, if you haven't taken advantage of your free 30-minute intro to the process consultation, definitely make sure you do that. We go over a few of the initial steps of the process so that you have a good understanding of the process and what that looks like to get started with it. If you're kind of farther into the process or you're looking to maybe work with me, we can definitely set up a time to talk as well. So again, lots of ways to connect, ways to help you all throughout the process. And that's really our goal through the partnership with the PKB and through just what I do in general. So, but for now, let us talk about social media and all that encompasses it from a recruiting perspective. And let's see if I can maybe answer some of the questions you might have, and see if we maybe have a little bit of time at the end if I don't answer all of them. So these are kind of the four main topics we're going to talk about, which is, do I have to use it? That's one of the big questions I get asked. What platform should I use? What are some of the things I should post? And what are things that I shouldn't do? So really kind of the four main things we're going to talk about. So let's start with number one. Do I have to use social media? No, it is not necessary. That's for sure. So do not feel like it is something that you absolutely have to do if you're not comfortable with it. Everybody, especially at a young age, I mean, obviously there are age restrictions on it for a reason. It is a little bit of definitely a dangerous world in a lot of different ways. There are dark sides to it for sure. You're probably going to hear me repeat some things over through each slide because there are definitely points to it that are very repetitive for what social media, again, recruiting and just the world in general. But it is, without a doubt, a useful tool in college recruiting for sure. You cannot ignore that. Coaches use it, recruits use it, teams use it, sports are using it. You can't ignore what it is for sure, but it is not necessary. And to be honest, probably one thing that I can kind of tell you too is there's a lot of coaches that you do have that are still some older coaches, both males and females, that are not tech savvy. They're not social media savvy. Some of them might be at more conservative schools, or they're just older and just don't care about it. And they don't use it as much. Maybe they are smaller sports or smaller athletic departments where it's not as big of a deal. They're not pushed as much to have to do it. But I mean, you get athletic departments where it is a big thing. You have to do it. You have to use it. You are literally controlled in some ways by the athletic department to have to do it. But you get some that aren't. And in some ways, it's a way to maybe connect with a coach that might be a little more of a good fit for you, because if that coach isn't really looking for that, all of that, and you're not really wrapped up in that, hey, that might be a way that you do connect, because you're going to connect in other ways, which we're going to talk about. If you're not using it, what do you need to be doing? So that might be something where you're a little more, even as a teenager, a little more kind of old school. Maybe we're kind of raised that way a little bit. Well, hey, here's a coach that like you're going to connect with a little bit better. So sometimes it works out for that. So again, it's not necessary. You do not have to do it. Does it in some ways put you at a little bit of disadvantage for not getting some of the exposure, some of the easy attention that it does bring, some of the easy I said visibility, for sure, yes. But like I said, it does sometimes have its way of working itself out. There are definitely some other ways to get around not doing that if it's something you're not comfortable with. I hope that I don't get too sidetracked and not talk about that word comfortable. I don't necessarily want to talk about it just yet, because I don't want to go too hardcore right off the bat. But what that word comfortable means and why, like I said, I try to, from the mentor side of things, dive into what that means. But as a family, sometimes it's just something that parents really want to limit. They don't want their child doing. And again, I'm always 100% respectful of that within what I do. And everybody has the rules that they have for a reason, and that's totally okay. So stick with that. You can find other ways to do stuff. So if you're not, you just want to make sure you're a little bit more active with emails, maybe some video updates. I'm going to go ahead. So ignore that third one. This one kind of got out of order as I'm thinking about this, but look at the second and the third one, or second and the fourth one right now. So you can be more active with your emails. Make sure you stay up to date that way. Or if you get a coach's cell phone number and you able to text them a little bit, do that with some good video updates, or maybe phone calls. Maybe they do like to talk a little bit. If they call you and they initiate some phone calls with you, be willing to do that back with them. You can use Google Drive or YouTube. YouTube, you can make private, so everything can be done to where only those coaches who have that link will get that. Or the fact that just YouTube in general, all it is those videos that you're posting of maybe your swing versus, the social media piece. It's a little bit different, but you can always use YouTube, or again, you can store everything in a Google Drive where you've got everything kind of housed in one spot, and then invite that coach via his or her email to view everything that's in your Google Drive that's got some videos, got some updates, that kind of stuff. So again, you can find some other ways to be a little creative that still houses stuff like some videos, TrackMan results, some stuff like that. Again, emails, all that stuff. So just be more active with that stuff. Just stay on top of things. What I do tend to see sometimes a lot is sometimes the people who might not use social media, and again, where I kind of go to that comfort factor, is sometimes it might be somebody who's a little shy, a little timid, a little scared to get themselves out there. Maybe lack of confidence. They're afraid, again, to put themselves out there, which is why maybe they don't want to do a golf account or use their social media. Maybe they already have it, but then they're afraid to use it for golf. Or again, maybe they just don't have social media at all. And it's not so much that their parents don't want them to have it, or that they, don't do it from a recruiting perspective, but it's that they're too scared to do it. And so then they're not going to be active with emails or videos either. And so it's all more of an underlying reason. It's not necessarily a parental thing or a justified reason. It's more of just the hesitancy, the lack of confidence, that. And that's where, if that's the case, we want to kind of work on that more from why are we nervous and hesitant to do it, and build some confidence. I don't ever like to use social media as that reason, because that seems, like I said, very kind of contradictory. But if that is some of the reasons and a girl tells me that, then we do want to work on, okay, well, in order to get through this recruiting process, we have to get more comfortable doing these things. Maybe it's not building a social media account, but hey, we need to do some things to get you more comfortable with communicating and talking and doing these things, because if, that's what this process takes. But at the end of the day too, if nothing else, one thing to always, at least maybe at a minimum, try to do is use your parents' account to follow the teams. That way you're at least seeing what the teams are doing so that you can at least maybe have that to communicate with the coaches about. Hey, coach, I saw the team play great this past weekend, or hey, I saw, just so that you're at least staying up to date with that and you're not totally removed from what's going on in the college golf world. That is one thing that a coach probably has a hard time maybe relating to, is if you just don't know at all what's going on kind of in their world of college golf. That's kind of sometimes maybe where you really would get at a disadvantage, is not knowing that, because coaches love when you are keeping up and you're following college golf and you're seeing those kinds of things. So again, making sure you keep up with that some other way, even if you're not with the account or posting. Then you're at least maybe, got your parents' account and you're checking it that way. So again, a few things to touch on if you're not using it. I know a big question I do get, so I'll kind of go ahead and touch on this really quick before we move on. Is a parent managing your daughter's account? Definitely, there's a lot of different directions that goes. Obviously, at a really young age, it's kind of the only way you can do it. But then sometimes it's like, if it's too young, then terms you just don't even need to be doing it yet. But obviously, yes, when you're really young, you're 9, 10, 11 years old, that's the only way to really be having a social media account, or the only way you're supposed to be having a social media account. That's typically fine. But there definitely gets a point where it's like, okay, if you're gonna have a social media account, then you as the recruit probably does need to take it over, to where you're managing it. And it definitely needs to be, because if you're mature enough to start handling this recruiting process, the wording of the social media does not need to be a we thing, or she's doing this, she's doing that, when you do become 15, 16, 17 years old, and it's very obvious that your mom or dad is still managing your social media account. That does probably start to become a little conflict of a coach saying, okay, are the parents still too involved that they are managing their account at this age? Again, even though some of us would probably like to argue to say, hey, they are still too young to be doing it. So again, this is where it gets very, very touchy, very sensitive subject. But from a micromanaging of a athlete, sometimes a coach is definitely going to see that as the parents trying to do too much, by the fact that if you are on there and you're, she's doing this and she's doing that, as she's practicing, and it's all that could definitely be a little bit of a turn off to a coach. So again, especially if she gets into high school, those are some things to probably start to consider for who's managing the account and how the wording and the terminology starts to come out. If it's her account and she's getting into the recruiting process and should theoretically start to be mature enough in a coach's eyes to start managing stuff, and they're big on it, the daughter that needs to be doing it. Something to think about. Very sensitive, very touchy subject, because it's really hard to tell parents how to parent, and social media is a very, very sensitive subject for teenagers when you're already kind of dealing with bigger issues when it comes to that. But yet we're trying to look at it in this little minute segment of college recruiting versus what social media is in a social world segment. So hopefully that sounds right. I'm very sensitive, try to be very sensitive about what we're looking at in this little tiny. So keep that in mind. We're talking a very, very tiny segment of just recruiting, not social media as a whole. So what platform to use? Really, Instagram is the most popular. I mean, yes, obviously the kids, and again, sometimes I hate that I do this, is like, all right, we're just gonna go ahead and get them all up, because sometimes I'm gonna jump around a little bit. Instagram is definitely the most popular as far as what coaches use, what they look at, what allows you to share in the best way from a recruiting perspective, for how it lets you do things, the tools that you can use, the way you can share stuff stays static on there, so a coach can go back and look at past things. Obviously kids are not big on Facebook, so that's really not a big tool, because Yeah, a lot of college coaches have Facebook accounts. I'm friends with a ton of the college coaches from their personal accounts. Some do have team accounts, but really the big chunk of it is Instagram with a few kind of things scattered here and there. Keep in mind though, as kids have a lot of other accounts as far as like TikTok and Snapchat and all of that. Don't think coaches won't try to track of that other stuff and get whether it's somebody on the team or, whatever, to try to keep up with what you're doing. So just because you maybe aren't using that for recruiting doesn't mean coaches aren't going to get wind of stuff you're posting on that. The next couple of slides are a little bit about what to post and not to post. So you maybe not necessarily are using those platforms for recruiting, but coaches a lot of times will potentially track those platforms for things that you are posting and how are you conducting yourself, socially and personally. But from a kind of a golf perspective and overall, Instagram is definitely the most popular to use. Also keep in mind, especially again with Instagram, it is a way to contact and communicate with coaches and vice versa. You want to be mindful of it. You want to be respectful of it. You don't typically want it to be the way to initiate contact with a coach. You want that to be a more formal email, resume, all of that via email, and try to do it that way. But especially if you're being realistic, as I always like to say, and you're not reaching out to a coach that's like, that's not going to really accept the you're not being realistic about which one you're looking, who you're reaching out to. But if you have tried to reach them through email, you can send them sometimes a message on Instagram. Hey coach, just, wanted to let you know I've sent you my resume, and things through email. Just at least wanted to reach out this way, just in case, you didn't get that. Or sometimes you can tack on if they did just play really good or something like that. Hey, great win, coach. It's really awesome. Just also wanted to let you know I have sent you my resume. So again, you can use that. Coaches do that as well, but several coaches sometimes reach out. Again, I've had a player that did not use social media at all. Coach reached out to me and said, hey, such and such player, I was going to try to reach out to her on Instagram to introduce myself, and I can't find her. And I was like, well, she doesn't have an Instagram account. But that was how that coach was going to initiate that contact. So I had to give her email. Not a big deal, but that's how that coach was going to initiate contact. A little different for a coach to do that versus you as a player. Because if you as a player try to only reach out to the coach that way, they might not necessarily know anything about you. So they need to know who you are, what's your resume, those things. So again, you need to have sent that to them via email and be a little more formal, because you are trying to make that really good initial impression. And then at some point you can use that and you can communicate ongoing some with them through social media. Also, make sure you use some of the tools that are available. You can have some of the highlight sections where you say some stuff like swing videos or stats. Use your bio to make sure you've got your grad year, a couple of things, where you're from. You could have your height, your GPA, a couple of things. You can use the bio link. If you're really tech savvy, you can create like a link tree where you could actually, when you click on that bio, so like in mine, you click on my bio as a business person, it's going to give you all the different links to take you to different things on my website or a blog, or I would put the recording to this on there, something like that. Depending on how your resume or your swing video, you could theoretically have a couple of links that send them to those things, or at least your resume. So you could do that on your bio link on your social media if you wanted to. But again, use the tools that are on there. But if you're not super tech savvy with all of that, no big deal, but at least posting, or at least using what you can on there. So next page is a little bit about what should you post. Again, too many. Hang on. Okay. So these are some of the things, and some people, depends on whether you have a golf specific account or if you're using what's currently or was your normal account where you're just kind of mixing things up. There's not a wrong or right or a wrong way. I've had both work just fine, where I've had girls just kind of mix up what they do with their normal account. They throw some golf stuff in, but they have their normal social family stuff as well. I've had others do 2 completely separate ones. It's worked just fine. It really can go either way. And again, it's definitely not a right or a wrong way. Some of it's just kind of how you started out, how you feel about what you want to share, how much you want to share, those kinds of things. But these are just some of the things to post. Your tournament, finishes and how you played. If anybody saw my post today, your scores and what you shot. So I guess if I'm the one that's when I say the word finishes, that does mean, your actual finish, including your scores, and posting all about that. If you've got any videos that your parents might have taken, and you can put some highlights on there as well. But any of that doesn't have to be every single one, especially if you're playing pretty consistently. But if you're playing every couple of weeks, of course, that's something to consistently kind of keep up, so that you're not going a long time without posting stuff. If you get some stuff from workouts, I will say coaches love seeing that. They like seeing you move. I mean, that's some of the things that coaches love. Athletes. I've got a player that was a really good, she played, I've actually got a couple of players that are basketball players as well. The one that played continued to play basketball throughout high school. She went to really top D1 golf program as well, but she always shared a lot as well with her basketball. And I mean, it really stands out because it showed how much of her athleticism was there as well, just naturally. But she also would post some of her workout stuff. I know not everybody has all of that, but if you do, share some of that. I know it's easier said than done to get somebody to film what you're doing and all of that, but if it's not too hard to do, just try to think about some of that. That is part of this recruiting process. If you really do want to try your best to do all of this, it is about capturing some of this stuff and showing your athleticism and showing, and if you can't do it on a consistent basis, at least try to get a few clips of this and then put one video together that is kind of your highlight video, your recruiting video, that might include something with some workouts. Social non-golf activity as well. Again, if you're strictly doing a golf account, it's still okay to throw some stuff in there. Or if it's stuff like that, when you're at a golf tournament, but you and your friends go out to eat, or y'all go do something else, not with the tournament, but y'all go do something, it looks great to put some other stuff in there that might be with golf friends, but that's not golf related, or something that you do, or volunteer work, or anything like that. It's great to include some of that, again, or other sports, that kind of stuff. So try to include some of that. Your drills, your lesson updates, numbers improvements on, some of your stats and your data. If you're out doing some drill, if you want to post a really cool video with it, those kinds of things. Just be creative sometimes. Again, don't waste a lot of time trying to create this content. Of course, the goal is, I've had some people say it, and I feel like sometimes maybe they use it as an excuse, but you don't waste a bunch of time worried about all this. But, if you're doing something, pop the camera out, set it up somehow, and do something quick. It doesn't have to be a big deal. But, trying to just do a little bit, trying to take a little bit of time to do it. I do say it's a little bit of an oxymoron, because coaches love for you to do this recruiting wise, so they can get to know you. They can learn more about you. But then, of course, when you get to college, it's like they don't want you to be on your phone. They want you practicing. They want you studying. They want you doing everything. They don't want you posting and being out and doing crazy stuff and posting about it on social media. But right now, they do kind of want to, because they need to learn a little bit more about you. So it's a little bit of an oxymoron there. But again, trying to do some stuff. Be creative. Coaches love some personality. They love to see that you love the game, you love what you're doing, and you're enjoying it. They love the athleticism, that you're working hard. You're getting better, and those kinds of things. So, all right, last little section, things you should not do. I think that's the only 3. Hopefully it doesn't go to the last screen. Okay. Main things you shouldn't do. Don't do too much is one of the biggest things. I know that's a very broad statement. How much is too much? If somebody asks me that in the comment section, I'm going to have a hard time answering, because, every day, definitely you don't have to post every day. I mean, if you want to, you can, but you don't have to post every day. don't just always be liking and commenting on every single thing, especially as soon as they post it. I did have a coach make a comment that, and I don't know if she just automatically has her notifications up on her phone, but she said every time she posted something about the team stuff, there was one particular player that always would be the first one to like it, and she could always see that. It was a pretty good player. But she said that was the first one, and she just made that her feel like that player was always just kind of living by her phone there. And it just stood out to her. And she's like, just something to be mindful of. You know, sometimes we do see these things. You may not realize it, but she could see, you know, this such and such liked it, such and such liked it. And it was kind of the first one that always popped up. So you can be mindful of those things, commenting or liking the team stuff or whatever. Make sure you don't overload on that, and you're not on your phone too much, and you're not posting too much. Just keep it, you know, it can be just a couple of times a week. If you are doing some of the highlight stuff on the stories, stuff like that, that can be a little bit more often. But it's fine to just keep it to just a few times a week. Totally fine. Obviously nothing inappropriate. Not just, again, don't think that, again, I do think there is one more, but I don't want to hit it just in case, because it's going to go there. We go. Okay. Don't assume private means private on all of your social media and on being on somebody else's thing. This world is a small world. I had an instance this week, not with a player I work with, that just proves how much these coaches talk, how much, again, girls on teams talk to each other, how much girls on college teams hear about you junior players. And I cannot tell you how much stuff gets around. Private does not mean private. Screenshots happen. Stuff just does. So nothing inappropriate. And in so many ways of that level of inappropriate. Again, obviously, if you're on a golf count, I can't imagine anything that you would post on a golf count. But also just being aware of how you conduct yourself, even if you're not posting it on social media, how you conduct yourself just in general, you know, that can be not posted on social media, but just that's just a rule of thumb, no matter what. Keep in mind how much these coaches talk and these kids talk and parents talk. Yes, sometimes things happen that was misunderstood, whatever, but either way, just it was a really big lesson for some stuff. Just know that, please just know that. But especially for social media where things can be screenshotted, things don't disappear, things stay on the internet. Coaches see things, coaches hear things, so keep that in mind. And don't, if a coach asks to follow you, don't not accept that. Again, always kind of be on the lookout, because I've had some coaches say, yeah, I've requested to follow her account and she's never accepted it. I know it's easy to kind of miss that, but if you're gonna have an account and you're gonna put it out there, make sure you stay on top of things. Otherwise, sometimes a coach is like, well, why she's not letting me follow it. So again, be active with stuff, stay on top of things, keep up with it and that kind of stuff. It's okay. I think that's kind of, let me touch on that. Some people ask, is it okay to keep my account private? That's fine to do that, but do just make sure you keep track when a coach is asked to follow you, that you accept it. So it's okay to keep it private if you feel better about that. Nothing wrong with that. Coaches understand that. But just make sure you keep up with it as you get requests that a coach wants to follow you, that you do accept that, because if you're using that for that account, it's okay if you have a personal account that maybe you don't want to. That's, you know, that's okay. I don't think, you might have a coach that's like, well, why doesn't she want me to follow it? But if you really just don't, it might be a little bit of a chance you take. They're like, why wouldn't she? But typically they're going to start to figure out she's got nothing to hide. I mean, it's okay if you just want to keep that private. But definitely with your golf account, make sure you just stay on top of it enough that if a coach is asking you to follow it, that you do. Again, the private set of settings, I had a lot of different reasons for why people want it to be private and not be private. Just make sure you stay active with stuff. So that's kind of all I have. Next screen is just going to go back to the original home screen. So for some who are just jumping on, this is just, again, a little tidbit about me. So if you weren't to hear it, the initial part, this is me. very synopsis of kind of my golf career, my life, my contact info on here if anybody needs to jot it down really quick before I get back to me on the home screen. And we're not going too late. This was a little semi-shorter webinar than some, so I'll see if anybody has a couple questions they want to type into the chat box before we call it a night. But I'm gonna stop my screen sharing. Let me find my chat box. There we go. All right. So if anybody does want to type in a question, I'm happy to answer a couple without us getting too late. I got all my dogs snoozing, so I can take advantage of that. But if anybody has any questions about social media in the process that maybe I didn't go over, I'll do my best to answer. If anyone wants to type anything into the chat box before we would sign off, I will give it just a minute and see. And for those that are going to be there this weekend, like I said, make sure you come find me. Again, my plan is I will be there throughout most of the day on Saturday. I'm going to drive up in the morning, so I'll get there mid-morning and stay through early afternoon. And then if we have anybody on here from the Michigan area, I will be at the Michigan PGA Teaching Summit on Monday and Tuesday. So I'll be flying to Michigan bright and early Monday morning. So I'll be up in Michigan Monday and Tuesday. So, okay, do we have a couple questions? How does a college coach, okay, very good question. How does a college coach typically find your social media? So one thing, I mean, a lot of times they will just search it, just in terms of search your name, but you also, anytime you email a coach, you can include that on your resume. Hey coach, you can follow me at such and such, resume, email, or anything like that. You can also go on there. Again, especially if you connected with them, you can send it to them through social media. Again, just be mindful of this. I don't like to get too many ideas that everybody go bombard coaches with like, hey, follow me. But the biggest thing is when you email them your resume and stuff, include your handles on there for, hey coach, you can follow me at such and such. That's the main way, is just putting that on your resume for what your Instagram or whatever your social media, handles are basically. TikTok. Somebody asked, is TikTok worth using it or not? I mean, there's definitely some coaches on it. I don't think if you're going to use it, I would always just reshare it back over to your Instagram, because again, that is still the most popular. A lot of coaches are my age. Some are a little bit younger and a little more familiar with TikTok. I am a little bit, only because I've got a niece and nephew who are teenagers and they're all about TikTok. So, I mean, you do get some who are a little more up to date with it. So you certainly could do your TikToks. And then, like I said, I would just maybe share it back over to Instagram as a little better chance for a coach to see it. I know the girls love it. So by all means, encourage them to keep doing it as long as it's, appropriate kind of content. But just know you're not going to get a ton of visibility with it more than you will having it over on something like Instagram. That's, again, a little more used platform. You're just not going to have as many coaches using it as you do Instagram right now. It's just still not, it's caught on in a lot of other platforms. And it is gaining popularity. It's just still not as great of a way to showcase stuff as Instagram is. How often should I post swing videos on my YouTube channel? I mean, really not more than, every couple of months, really, at the most. I mean, maybe once every 3 months or so. I mean, your swing's not changing that much. There's not a need to really post a whole lot of swing videos very often. A lot of times too, if you're regularly talking to a coach, they might ask for updated swing videos, but really not more than, once every few months or so, at most. As far as like updating swing videos on a YouTube channel, I'd say once every 2 to 3 months at the earliest. even really no more than, I mean, even really you could go as much as like 6 months before. I have most of my girls, anytime we update videos, it's typically within no sooner than about 6 months usually. But if you want to update more, you by all means, you certainly can. If you want to throw a few videos in there every few months, but I would say you don't have to do it any sooner than about 3 months or so. When or at what point can we begin talking with a coach? We initiate contact, or all right, let me see. I think we're getting into things that are not social media, but that's okay. When and or at what point can we begin talking directly with a coach? Should we initiate contact, or would they be somehow reaching out to us? So hopefully I can answer this. Not really a social media question, but so I mean, June 15th, prior to your junior year, is the start date. So this also applies with social media. When I talk about sending messages to coaches, this date is the same thing. So a message to a coach on social media, especially direct message, is basically like a text message as well. June 15th, prior to junior year, is the first time a college coach can communicate back to you. It's the first time they can respond back to a text message, the first time they can answer or make a phone call to you, any of that communication that a college coach can have to you. You can send them emails prior to that time. You can do anything prior to that time on your end as far as letting them know who you are. Especially if you're a really high ranked player, they're going to potentially have you on their radar, possibly be looking at you and want to get updates from you. If you are a top 100, 200, especially ranked player, they're possibly looking at you and expecting that from you. But not until June 15th, prior to your junior year, can they do anything. That's that initial date of communication starting, when the process really actually kind of kicks off and all of that. A little bit of what the last webinar kind of talked a little bit about. So how do I set myself apart? Play really good golf. It's one of the best ways. At the end of the day, it is. But I mean, honestly, there are so many ways. Coaches love athleticism. I mean, it's a big thing they love. Coaches love people who are willing to communicate and can talk for themselves and can have a great conversation. That's a big thing. Coaches love, when you just love the game of golf for the game of golf, and not just for playing golf in college and for a scholarship and all of that. They can a lot of times try to see through that and see that you just love it. And especially the hard work piece of it and the getting better and the competitiveness. That's a big thing that a lot of college coaches love as well, is that, I hear a lot of parents that'll say, well, she doesn't like to lose. Nobody likes to lose, but who really loves to compete and to really work hard and to really want to get better and to just love that grind of it, and just to love the game and all of that. Coaches do love that part too. That's a few of the things. Again, I could go on about some of the different things, and I know college coaches are different. Some of them are looking for things. Some love certain types of personality. Some love a little more goofiness, or some love if you make something kind of funny in an email, and then others don't. They like very very serious kind of stuff. So in some ways it's about being yourself, but again, the good golf scores, as much as we don't like to be, you are more than your scores for sure when it comes to recruiting. At the end of the day, that you can't ignore what the golf scores part of it kind of does. Golf swing video, because again, this kind of does go into social media. So somebody asked what goes into a swing video. There's lots you can do. You can make a bigger production of it, but I mean, really, if you want a really good, solid intro video, that's kind of what you would send out initially to a coach. It's great to have a really good intro where you introduce yourself, say who you are, where you're from. You're the class of 20 whatever. It's a great way to start it. Coaches love to see you. Again, introduce yourself. Have a couple of good swings with your driver, that front on angle, and then the down the line angle. So very similar to how your swing coach would do a swing video or a swing lesson. Driver, couple irons, long iron, short iron, just a couple of swings within full swings of some irons or hybrids. If you can get some different short game shots around the green that shows the types of shots you can hit, high shots, low shots, that shows some creativity and shows the shots. If you've got the ability for somebody to help you do that and makes it look good, that's great. Coaches love if you can kind of show, hey, I can like manipulate the club a little bit. I can hit some low shots. I can hit some high shots. And you can show that, do it. If not, keep it simple. It's okay. And then show you rolling some putts, making a few short putts, rolling some long putts. So you can do all that and do it more on practice green. Very just kind of set up, again, front on, down the line, show the shots, keep it simple. Or you can go out on the golf course, play 3 or 4 holes, 5 or 6 holes, whatever, and just show you hit your first tee shot, whatever your second shot happens to be. The biggest thing is just trying to get the angles and be very steady from a front on for a handful of shots and a down the line from a handful of shots. And then you chip in and are putting a few. So if you did that for 4 or 5 holes, another thing is you just need to try to keep it trimmed down to be just kind of the shots itself that shows the swing and the entirety of the swing, but yet doesn't have a whole bunch of extra stuff. Because by the time you put all of those swings together, that video ends up being 6, 7, 8 minutes long. Coaches are probably not going to watch it. The video itself needs to stay under 3 to 4 minutes max. And so that a coach will watch most of it. That's one really good way to kind of do a good intro, is that takes a little bit of understanding. I do a lot of these for the girls. I have them video the clips. If was this day and age, especially between traveling and calls, I'm not able to go see the girls or vice versa. So I tell them how to video the stuff. They submit it all to me. I edit it together. That's their initial video. Then from there, you can just kind of do some additional clips here and there. Coach may say, hey, send me some updated swings, or maybe we'll do one again, 3 to 6 months. We'll do an updated one. So that's a good basic one. Again, you can make some a little bit better. You can do some extra stuff. Use iMovie to clip them all together, upload it, add it to YouTube. It's one way to do it. So hopefully, again, that gives you a baseline for doing it. So, all right, no more questions, or looks like we don't have any more questions. So we will wrap this up. But I hope this was some good info for everybody. Again, I know social media is a very sensitive, very touchy subject. Sometimes I hate trying to talk about it, but I hope it was some good info. If anybody has any questions, again, if you're around this weekend, if not, if you still haven't set up your 30-minute call, again, it's a little more about the intro to the process, but if you're interested in working with me through the process, we can set up kind of an intro to talk about that. Or I've got other ways to work together if you just need to set up a call to talk about some stuff. You know how to find me. Happy to talk to you. But till then, everybody have a great night, good rest of the week, and hope to see you out and about sometime soon. Take care.